Right, well, it started in 1975, which is probably about 5 years after the docks were closed. Um, it was Hilary Peters and Ken Bushnell. They were landscape gardeners. They're working up near the Tower of London there, and they had a business. Um, and there was nothing being done with the docks at all, really. There was a few odd things here and there, but nothing really. It was all derelict. And so there was this piece of land, 1.5 acres, between the docks and the river, and the buildings were vandalised and wrecked. And so she got a lease, a short lease, a year-by-year lease on the building, and brought some goats on. She already had some goats, and that's really how it developed. It started off as sort of individual initiative. They were doing it. They didn't get grants or anything else like that in those days. They did it because they believed in it, and they wanted to milk goats and things like that. And other people came in to help like that, really. And then over the years, it's developed, and well, Hilary Peters it still is quite a dynamic sort of person. She's always going out, getting things done. She's one of those doers in life, really, and she developed it. She started. We got grants from the Inner London Education Authority for an education worker, a teacher, and it grew and grew, and got money from Southwark Council first of all. Then the London Docklands Development Corporation gave a bit of money, and here we are now. We're
You're still on 1.5 acres?
No. In 1986, we had to move from that site to this site, which is bigger and better site, though we were very attached and sentimental about the old place. But we had to move because by then, because of redevelopment, the land had become worth something. Of course, when Hilary started, it was not worth anything, and there wasn't a London Docklands Development Corporation at all. The farm was one of the first things to actually start redeveloping the docks. It was just left, and so we were the first sort of development corporation, first couple of people. And then when they came along, of course, then they had big ideas, and where the farm was is now luxury flats, and it was an important place, it was an important site, so they wanted us out, and well, they had to deal with us, really. Although we didn't have a long lease, we couldn't really have put up a fight like legally or anything like that. We had community support, and they knew that they couldn't afford to that sort of fight, because we would have stayed, we would have locked the gates, we would have done that sort of thing. But it never got to that stage, because they recognised that we could be useful for them as well. Their way of, they could spend some of their money on something like this and look good, which they needed to, because they were unpopular. And so this is what we've got here. They spent £300,000 on doing this. That was in 1985-86, doing this site, building some of the buildings on this. But when we moved in, we still had to put the fencing on. We had to buy topsoil. It was basically buildings just in a lump of mud, really. So yet again, here we've developed this site. It wasn't just put down like this in 1986. We've done that, and we've developed it and built it up bit by bit, which at first we thought, well, we sort of imagined it was all going to be done for us, and it seemed really good. But actually looking back, I think it's really good that it wasn't done like that, and we could do it bit by bit, because then you can change things as you go along, and people can join in and do different things. So anyway, here we are, lots more things.
Who else run the place? Is it voluntary, local?
No, it is partly that. There's an organisation, a noisy geese. Sorry, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying. They can see Steve, who's one of our regular visitors, coming with bread. So they're shouting about it. Steve is one of our regular visitors. We have lots of local people come in and volunteer, children, young people, adults. But there are paid workers here now, which at the beginning there weren't. And people who were on the farm went and worked somewhere else, and then came and did the farm work. Now we're paid. We have a teacher here. She's paid. We have 2 projects for adults with learning difficulties. So the trainers for them, they're paid. I'm paid. I'm standing here. I'm getting paid for this. There's other farm workers. You do really need paid people because volunteers, they come in, they do a lot, but then maybe they drop out, they get a job or something like that, and you can't run something like this without a continuity. You can't just have it that there's nobody here to feed the animals one morning, because you've got to have continuity. You've got to have people, so that you do that by paying people, really.
What animals do you have here now?
Yeah, we've got a herd of goats. We milk the goats, do milk, cheese from them. We've got, it's only a small herd of goats, I say 10 milking goats. We've got sheep. We've got 8 sheep. We've got 4 cows. We got 3 big pigs for breeding and 10 piglets, who are quite big now. It is important to say it's a farm, so the piglets are going to going to slaughter, I should say, next week. So it is 5. It's not a zoo and it's not a pets place, really. The animals aren't pets. The cute little goat kids, which you may get to see in the yard, they're cute now, but when they are getting older, they will go to slaughter and they will go for meat. And I think that's part of what we do here, is tell people that this is what life is about. If you're a meat eater, this is what happens. You've got to accept it. A cute little goat kid, and you eat it. That's how it is, really.
What are your What are your feelings on the closure of the docks and what's happened since?
Well, I first came here and the docks were gone and were closed. So what do I feel about that? So I don't really have strong feelings because I was never around here when the docks were there. But what I do know from the people who were living around here when the farm started and when I first came in 1981, that there's a very strong community around here. In fact, when I came and when the farm first started, nobody wanted to live around here. There was only isolated bits of council housing, which ex-dock workers and their families were living in, but nobody wanted to move down here because it was just like a desert. You were cut off from everywhere else. There were only 1 or 2 shops. There was nothing. But they had a very strong feeling of community, of identity, much more, I think, than anywhere else in London, because there's people round here who they look at their grandfathers. People my age were talking about their grandfathers, not just their fathers who'd worked on the docks, and that's going back quite a way. That is, and very different from most bits of London where people don't have that. And I think they felt they really identified with this area. They loved it, and they were insular. They didn't really welcome outsiders. Unless your father had worked on the docks, you weren't welcome. It wasn't a matter of being around here for 10, 20 years. They looked to see whether your family had been around here and their families had married together and so on like that. And it's completely changed now. There's still those people here, but they've been completely overwhelmed because there's a whole lot more houses. It's utter difference since I've been here. There's more council housing, housing association housing they call it. There's more rich, smart flats along the river, which was again unheard of when I came here. Nobody would have imagined that. It was just ridiculous to imagine that. Our first site was unrentable, unusable. It was a peppercorn rent. This site here, people have this, where we are now, 2 acres, riverside site. Some people have said to me, £1 million it's worth, £2 million. I have no idea. Some developer, they could get it and put up houses, or smart flats on it, it would be worth in that sort. I have no idea really, because who knows? I'm not a property developer, but you're talking that sort of thing. Fantastic amounts of money it's worth, and it's completely changed. Sorry.
That's great, John.
Yeah, sorry.
Great stuff there. And there's some really interesting stuff
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Can we take a few shots around the farm?
Yes.